Dhamma Jimden Den Di Shen Shewa Drasho Ma Yang Dam Zobe Sanje Rinpa Dang Sha Sung Den Dewari Shewa Jiden Khenpa Jivon Den Kalo Jiwa Lana Mepa Lada Nam Jiden Sanje Jimden Den Ben Jawa Shaja Tuwa Sasen Lo Shudu Jasu Shewa Dhamma Jimden Di Shen Shewa Drasho Ma Yang Dam Ban Zobe Rinpa Dang Sha Sung Den Ban Dewari Shewa Jiden Jivon Deve Kalo Jiwa Lana Mepa Lada Menam Jiden Ba Sanje Jimden Bejawa Shaja Tuba La Cha Zen Lo Jedo Jasu Che Yamba Jumden Den Di Shen Shewa Dra Shomba Yang Zobe Sanje Riba Dan Sha Sun Denba Devarishi Jiden Kemba Jivon Deva Kalo Jiwa Lana Me Tada Menam Jiden Ba Sanje Jumden Bejawa Shaja Tuba La Cha Zen Chedo Jasu Che Wo Kanze Kanyen Zobo Jedam Sajen Dirna Pamban Dumbrande Ngane Jiden Den Tezekiaba Jola Cha Azelo Namda Gunga Chado Ishe Jazu Sejo Lombonda Taban Jiden Ngombo Chonyi Jola Cha Azelo Senjo Demba Timenda Sendon Jawa Jola Cha Azelo Dire Chendra Seba Nyame Kenshin Jola Cha Azelo Ngombo Tuje Tamje Kembe Demba Bo Sonam Yenden Jazu Dishin Shala Cha Azelo Taben Deja Tiwa Given as on the dredging, check the television. Shinju Chola Cha, the trainer travel. Lavata La Rabda Ne, Shinga Tamba Yen. Gendun Laya Cha, the Bachi and give up a son of a chair, and get Cindy. Then the Sanje Dembani, Karma Rabri Marmet, Jumaseva, Shubrata, Melmoloda, Genda, the Shecham, the Data. Sonam Dia Tam Jesse, one year Covantum, the Junjin Datu, Gata. She will love to the civil son and one driver to the teacher, the blessed one, the one beyond, the poor destroyer, the completely perfect, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, lover of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate and make offerings of all forever. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one beyond, the poor destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata Ndavakado, supreme guide of beings to the temple, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely fully awakened, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, make offerings and go forever. Teacher, the blessed one, the one who be,
the foe destroyer, the completely perfected,
yeah, awaken me, perfect in knowledge and good conduct. Sugata,
supreme guide of
kings to be
tamed,
teacher of gods and humans, to you the complete.
blessed one, glorious quality, the subduer from the shopkeeper, I prostrate make offerings and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you were born out of the city, you placed out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. 2 who wisely I prostrate, with pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that places in the 3 walls, weather of the best, to read and prostrate. With the supreme signs, space like swallows moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are long, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you my God, to bestness I prostrate. The purity which makes one
Free from attachment, the virtues which frees one from the one path, the sublime pure reality.
To that Dharma which pacifies I prostrate.
Those who are liberated also show the path to liberation. Holy qualified
or a devoted to the one precept.
to you the sublime community.
virtue.
Do not commit any unrighteous actions, perform all the perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind to it. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star in a mirage, a flame of lamp, illusion of drop of dew, a dream of flash of light in a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through this merit, the sentient beings attain the realm of all seeing, subdue the poor, and deliver from the wishes of suffering, aging, sickness, Sanjay Jala Zoje Jala La Chanju Bando Nale Jazu Nagin Jazo Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanju Sanjay Jala Zoje Jala La Chanju Bando Nale Jazu Nagin Jazo Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanju Sanjay Jala Zoje Jala La Chanju Bando Nale Jazu Nagin Jazo Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanju Sanjay Jala Zoje Jala La Chanju Bando Nagin Jazo Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanju May I quickly attain the state of Buddha. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, through the merit I create by practicing giving and other perfections. May I quickly attain the state of Buddha. Tangje Jema La Cha Zaman De Da San Je Shem Den De An Den De Shen Shen Ban Da Jum Ban Yang Da Ban Zu Be San Riba Da Sha Zon De Man De Ore She Ban Je Den Jema Ju Gun De Ka Dong Ju La Na Me Ba La Da Me Na De De San Je Shem Den De So Man De Shen Shen Ban De So Nam Ta Gyu Tu Ma Ge We Za Wa Na Ma Chu Me Za Wa Su Be Ra Do Je So Nam Je De Ren Nam Je Be Je Sang Ban Nam Je Chen Nam Je Me Do Je Ba Chu Yue Ren Ba To Nam Me De Teve Meva Na La Ngo Mar Ga Ba She Ra Si Je Me To Na La Ze Wa Me Ba Sim Je Tam Je Je Tam Ba Chan Ju Sem Ba Nam Je Ya Ba Pa Be Kan Sa Na Je Je Yang An Le De Ba Kan Je Dong Ju Ba Nam Je Teve Yi Je Ba Dong Me Ba 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 San Je Me Je So Na Bra Ta Ba Yang Nye Ma Gu Je Ta Cho Me Je Gu Chung Ba Me Ba De Ba Ta Ge Ma Gu Ba So Da Ge Nye Wa Ma So Me Ba Ta Ta Ma De Dong En La Na Bra Chu Ba Kong Ba Ta La Na Bra Chu Ba Kam Na Da Me Den Ba Je Je Na Ma Da Ma Tu Ba Na Shin Do Chi Yo Zong Dong Wa Ta Number two was Seba Leju, Seba Leju, Chu, Yishi, Deva Nama Jumba, Tadaju. Sanjay Jim then the Yishila Neva, Yang and Deva, Deva Yanda, one Yatala. Sinja Tamjela Seba Sala Shuba, and Dedan, the Sanjay Jim then the which were in the Yanda. Tambe and the Tomageva, Padageva, Tomageva, as I was interested in Jim. Yozo Zova, Yozo Tava, Yozo Chama, Yahada, and me what you children me when you what the tone to you. Kevana Juso Ranga Ribachu, Jimden de Jena was to be children, one and never Yabrachu. Zove Sanju and Drovachi, Medimba, Major Devata, Temba, you watch about Teva, Chimegin, and never sugar, Ribachu, Tabajuba, Tubajuba, Tamaja, Saja, the Jovasona, Jepeji, singing years of Joachi, Benda, Kuno, Jimenda, Jovachembo. 강계에 도전해서 나와 터져 보면서 매춘에 던져 고담은 대화 차세로 I think baby wants a cushion.
So I get her in.
What? So we are on the page 249. Have you marked it?
It's
Through the force of the eye.
248. I have it with someone with like cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
Somewhere in there.
That's all right. Yeah, okay. So Nagarjuna's statement that suchness cannot be known from others suchness cannot be known from others. So others referring to the language or intellectuals, or just kind of, the language and intellectuals and informations, even the correct informations. So suchness cannot be known from the others. So when someone with mind, how's that? How do you read this? Myodysopia. Myodysopia is the eye disease. Sees false realities such as floating here, even through the person who free from eye malady may show him that there are no such floating hairs. The other persons remain incapable of perceiving the fact as it is. He is incapable of perceiving the absence of floating hair in the way in which persons without eye myodysopia does. So like cataract, someone who is with cataract, this often sees the hair floating or the mosquito flying around. So even someone who has free from this cataract, when tell that person there is no hair floating or there's no flies around you, but still, he is incapable of seeing this absence of hair floating and flies. So I think this is like sentient beings who are, their mind is obscured by the misconceptions, and they are incapable of seeing this emptiness as it is. Even someone tells that things are totally absent of intrinsic nature, but still incapable of perceiving the absence of intrinsic natures, because their mind is, overpowered by the misconceptions or underpinned with misconceptions. The person who has no myodysopia, Chandrakirti says, they might point to the one who has it and say, there are no floating here, but that does not mean the other persons will then perceive the absence of floating here in the same way as the person without myodysopia. So sentient beings can develop the wisdom, the understanding, the emptiness. So through intellectual realization of emptiness, so they can understand that absence of that, but as it is, the suchness, the free from the misconception is only possible when this person attained the enlightenment or the great enlightenment. So remember this. We've been talking about the the difference between the two truths, conventional and ultimate truths. Generally, the difference between the conventional and ultimate truth, and then ultimate truth, conventional truths, particularly the conventional truth, how it is being unveiled, unveiled to three the individual, like the two arhat, the hera arhat and the solitary arhat, and the bodhisattvas above the seven bhumi. So for them, all the conventional realities, they perceived it. They have this kind of, they perceive, and it appears to the conventional reality to the arhats and 8 bhumis, above the 8 bhumis. They see that conventional reality, but they are very kind of, very convincingly
they see these conventional realities as unreal. So other than these three persons, the ordinary sentient beings, even the noble beings who are in the stages that is so not really attained in the arhat liberations. Bodhisattvas, the first Buddha, the second Buddha, third Buddha, fourth Buddha, sixth Buddha, and the early part of the seven Buddhas, and then the hero practitioners like noble beings, one stream enterer, right, and one's returner, and even non-returners. So they all have this conventional reality is something that is they have conventional reality. It exists intrinsically. So so now this saying that just by telling you and things are absent or intrinsic existence is not going to help you or not going to convince you the conventional reality are absence of intrinsic existence, just from the information. So from the beginning, it's saying that the Nagarjuna says suchness cannot be known from others. Right? Yeah, Chandrakirti meant. So the point is, yeah. The point is that the listeners does not perceive the absence of floating hears the way the one without the eye melody does. This does not mean, however, that the other persons does not understand the absence of floating here whatsoever. So they understand there is no here, but it's very convincing because of the eye disease, and they keep seeing this hair floating here. Taking this as an analogy, so when the suchness is presented, Chandrakirti maintained, although the listeners does not realize it in the way those who are free from ignorance tend perceived it. So you may understand things are absent in the absence of intrinsic, but you don't see as those arhat is seeing. So therefore, it is not the case at all that ultimate truths cannot be taught in the definitive scriptures about the profound truths, that it cannot be expressed by the speech that reveals it, or that it cannot be realized by the cognitions that arises from such statement. This understanding should be applied in all contexts where suchness is characterized as not being the object of cognitions in the world. So I think it's the same thing. In emptiness called inexpressible, inconceivable realities. So inconceivable reality and inexpressible reality. So the emptiness cannot be expressed as it is. Right? So through the force of the eye being affected by the eye disease, someone affected with such malady perceives false things as such as floating here and a dinner bowl. Is it dinner bowl? Yeah. So one made from what's that? Rhinoceros horn, yeah, perhaps held in the hand. So the praise and so on indicates things like flies. So to remove them, the person may try and shake the ball again and again. Someone with the clear visions, on seeing this, right approach might approach that a person who sees, hear, and so on, who might direct his attention there, but not only will he not perceive the hear such, he will also have no conception of any properties predicted on the such here. When the person with myadrosophias shares his thought with one who is free of the disease, saying, I see floating here, the one free from the myadrosophias, wanting to dispel the false thoughts of one affected by the disease, may for the benefit of the others utter words to negate this, saying there is no floating hairs, nevertheless, in so saying, what such a speak is by no means denigrating the phenomenon of the floating hairs. In fact, it is only one who is free from the Maya dystopia, not the one with disease, who sees what is actually so pertaining to the supposed floating hairs, seen by the one with Maya dystopias. And as with these two examples of one affected with the Maya dystopia and others not, understand the suchness to be like this as well. So, which is referent of analogies. Understand this is the following. This as follows its reality of the aggregates, elements, sense basis, and so on perceived by those who do not see the suchness, those whose mind are tent or the adversely affected by the eye melody of the ignorance, is the conventional nature of the aggregates and so on. So analogous to the perceptions of the floating hairs by someone with myadrosopia, that very reality of the aggregates and so on that are perceived by those who do not see their suchness is in fact perceived by the Buddha, who are free from the obscurations to knowledge in the form of habitual propensities towards the ignorance, in a manner similar to those whose visions affected by the eye malady and thus do not perceive the floating hair and so on. And this nature of the aggregates and so on, ultimate truth for the Buddha. So I think this, the same, it's all kind of coming back to the same point. So, which means to understand the ultimate truth, so you have to apply this reasoning, and then by relying on the reasonings, and you can, infer, right? So things do not have any intrinsic natures through the logic. So you have to reveal, you have to generate the realization of the emptiness by yourself, relying on those logic and the reasonings. So having said that, so this, which implying that you cannot be convinced with the emptiness by the informations, or someone really tells you there is no such intrinsic nature in the phenomenon, is not going to convince you. So like, So one who some people may see the jalapeno, green jalapeno, right? Yes. Jalapeno, right? So the green, it looks like very sweet. so until you taste, yeah, you kind of reveals that the taste of the jalapeno. So just by someone's telling you, oh, jalapeno is sour, or some say it's sweet, or some say it, just by information, by relying on information, you're not going to understand the nature of the taste of the jalapenos. So you have to bring your tongue and touch the jalapeno, then you understand. So that's why it's kind of saying the ultimate truth is inexpressible. Someone cannot, direct you or make you taste the emptiness simply by someone telling you the absence of intrinsic existence. Or you can just read the book and you just, in the Heart Sutras, Heart Sutras says things are absence of intrinsic existence. So that is also not enough to, to convince that things are absence of intrinsic existence. So now this having said that, now there's a big questions, and after so rejecting objections against explanations, the questions, just as I, unaffected by the Maya disappear, do not see even the appearance of the floating years, unaffected by the Maya disappear. If the Buddha, now the question, this is really, a very big, big deal. If the Buddha do not perceive the conventional realities like the aggregates and so on, which appears to the mind adversely, right, affected by ignorance, wouldn't these things then become non-existent? If the conventional realities are unreal, therefore, it is not appears to the Buddha's mind or omniscient. So, which means the conventional reality is non-existing for the omniscient mind. If the Buddha, do not see the conventional reality, which means it's proving that conventional reality is generally a non-existence. So from the omniscient, it's proving there is no conventional reality, because no conventional realities appears to the omniscient. So this, so for if they do exist, Buddha would necessarily see them. Then furthermore, if conventional realities like aggregates and so on do not exist, so there will be no attainment of the Buddha as well. If the conventional reality is non-existence, so then generosity, the compassion, the patience, the moralities are all non-existent. And then there is no path to enlightenment. So how can there be a Buddha if the conventional reality is non-existence? So because the being who first generate awakening mind had to be someone who was affected by ignorance. So reply, let me explain how this does not follow. To begin with, there are two modes of which Buddha gnosis, right? Perceived object of knowledge. Gnosis or gnosis?
Gnosis, knowledge.
So now that's the perceived object of knowledge. The number one, the way in which all that is knowable within the sphere of the ultimate truth is known. Yes. The second, number two, the way in which all that is knowable within the sphere of the conventional truth is known. Of these, the first is knowing the suchness in a manner of not seeing the, as a diverse appearance of the conventional truth. As for the second, since the indirect knowing, so knowing but not directly perceiving it, cannot be presented in relation to the Buddha. So, which means the omniscience, revealing things indirectly is not really kind of, what's that? It is not really possible. So which means Buddha cannot perceive things, some of the truths, directly. Conventional must be known by the Buddhas on the basis of the direct perceiving. So within the perspective of the Buddha's gnosis, perceiving things in their diversity, the Buddha perceives the conventional reality in manner where the subject and its object do appears distinct. So then, if conventional and ultimate truth both appears to the Buddha, directly perceived by the Buddha, so which means Buddha has, dualistic appearance. So this is very, very, this, to untangle this, to unpack, this kind of questions. So you have to attain maybe Buddhahood. So Buddha can say, yeah, this is how I see. So yeah, and then the sutra there says, even for example, there's one mark, underneath that mark, So Buddha can see every particles, the number, the count, everything, and within the particles, the atoms, how many sentient beings, what kind of sentient beings, everything is instantly, known by the Buddha. So now the question: how does Buddha know? Because no conventional reality is appearing. It's not appearing to the omniscient. So how then Buddha can understand? That's the big question. So if the conventional, the sentient beings, the particles, and the relations, and when these sentient beings, what kind of karma they're born, if everything's known by the Buddhas, so those are the conventional reality. If the conventional reality directly perceived by the Buddha, and the conventional reality has to appear to the omniscience. So conventional reality is not the ultimate truth. It is unreal. So the Buddha, there is possible that Buddha can see the unreal. And if Buddha sees the unreal, Buddha sees the conventional reality, they are absolute intrinsic existence, but they seemingly they have some kind of quality of intrinsic nature. So then, as I mentioned earlier, the example of the magicians and the audience, and the one who cannot be tricked by the magicians' activities. The three persons, one the audience, they are fully, tricked by the magician, and they enjoy the conjurations of that's, and the magician himself also see the same thing as the audience, but the magicians so convincing these are not real. And then the third person is who are not really tricked by the magicians, the activities, and that person sees nothing. Right? Audience sees, it's real. Magician sees the unreal, And the third person says, I don't see anything. So now those Bodhisattvas, the noble beings, and the hearers, noble beings, and solitary noble beings, who are not yet attained the enlightenment, so they are like magicians. They see both, is it, conventional reality and the unreal of the conventional realities. So the ordinary sentient beings, we see the conventional reality truly existing, all real. And the Buddha, so is not part of both, is, sees those conventional reality has no any, no any essence. So Buddha sees there's nothing. So he sees nothing means that nothing is, he has, proven the conventional realities do not exist intrinsically. There is no even the slightest intrinsic quality in the conventional reality. So directly, conventional reality has no intrinsic qualities at all. So, the implicitly, and Buddha also understands how they can relatively, the appears relatively exist in sentient beings' mind. So this is the, as the Lama Tsongkapha was trying to explain. So here, the directly, indirectly means the how. This is not like, so there's one direct indirect, for example, when someone, says, oh, this monks do not, this, the fat monks do not eat at daytime. So the directly what you heard is this monk is not eating at all in the daytime. So the indirectly, understand he must be eating at nighttime. Otherwise, how can he be that fat, right? So this is the one of the direct and indirect. And now another things is, so direct and indirect. If someone, the persons, or like there's one persons, and you already know, this person, so when you see someone who's, this person must be either male or the female, right? So there's no third possibilities. He was convinced that. Now the second, he was not sure this person male or female, and then understanding, oh, is he the male or person? Then he understand, no, he isn't male. So that is another thing. That is one of the indirect understanding of the female. So do you see the difference that the monks do not eat in daytime? Indirectly, he must be eating in nighttime. And person that you are seeing, and with ambiguity, is that this person may be female or may be male. And then knowing this not for sure, not a male. Right? So this direct and indirect is you see that how close they are. So, the way the Buddha sees, implicitly is not indirectly. So, Buddha sees that everything is absent to intrinsic. There is no slightly intrinsic natures or intrinsic quality, and that very mind, explicit understanding, no intrinsic, and it implicitly, and he understands these, all those absence of intrinsic, but relatively this can be appears in the form or smell or taste for the sentient beings. Right? So there is no effort to think, because so Buddha's understanding is not like ordinary beings, or male or female. Oh, definitely he's not male, so then he's female. So the way the Buddha sees the realities is not like a person's trying to understand which one, right? Anyway, because the question is very, very significant, because the conventional realities is when ordinary people, when we see it, oh, where is the is? Oh, this is the is, that is the West. Almost you see the is kind of is locatable. We see that West and East, North and South are locatable. So when you see there is no there is no such is locatable. There is no such West is locatable, right? And then ordinary people may think, oh, then that means this East and West not exist. So it's Buddha, the way he sees like it's not locatable, but the sentient beings face. This way they understand that is. So when sentient beings, show the background is, these sentient beings understands the West. Not because the West and East is located somewhere and you go and see them. Right? So I think this is, one thing is really, it's a significance, because when we try to understand what is the Buddha, what is the, the meaning of the Buddhas, meaning of the omniscience, meaning of the enlightened. So more you deeper understanding, there's a greater the benefit and merits that you can cultivate. So the faith in the Buddha, sometimes faith in the Buddha for ordinary beings, they need some object, some objective. So and for sure they need some kind of objective to refer the Buddha. Otherwise, if it says, oh, Buddha is just mere, the transcendence of the suffering, and that free from all the stain of the afflictive emotions, and that can be everywhere, right? So in the form, in the color, in the taste, in the tactilities, right? In the Buddha can be exists in the can be seen with the relations of the cause and effect. So then people may say, oh, I don't really understand what the Buddha is. I think that better I rely on the statues or Bodhi trees. I need those to really kind of sustain my faith. Right? Otherwise, if it's just kind of, it's just like space. So I cannot really put faith because I don't see any objective. So I think this is how, in some of the highest yoga tantras, very, very high, and there are some statements say, if you continuously worship to the statues, which means you don't really understand the Buddha. So again, it's not really kind of negating, it's not refuting the worshiping to the stations. Because for the ordinary, for the beginners, they have no choice. So they need some kind of objectivities. And then continuously, improving their understanding deeper into the realities, then they can understand, oh, Buddha means, right? It's just, it's a free from the stain of the afflictive emotions, and what it perceives, what Buddha is, the nature of that is, nature of the Buddha is absence of intrinsic natures, absence of intrinsic nature, experiencing, perceiving, actualizing, without any needs, even the stain of the afflictive emotions. That is the Buddha. And this you can see in the color. This you can see in the taste, and the tactilities, and the form, space, and everywhere. So that is the kind of, the Mahayanas, So in the Mahayana path, the taking refuge to the Buddha is like that. So then that person's no longer need any statue or the scriptures, and definitely no need in the Dhamma or the bell. Right? Because, you see the Milarepa cave, it's just one ball, and there's nothing in his cave. But he's the most faithful, is most, the greatest worshipper of the Buddha. So the Shinshapas, Tathagat, Tathagat, Tat is the ultimate truth. Gat means one who is inseparable with the ultimate truth. So you see this, from the beginnings you are religiously following, and then more you gain knowledge, more you gain, and you're also kind of, free from the religions and the cultures. So first emotional, some desire, some kind of, I think it's a desire and emotions, seeking refuge. So seeking refuge, seeking and believing or having, wanting to protect it by something or someone. So with that's the kind of very culturally, very nature of the emotions. This is the it's kind of it's a culture of the emotions. So always trying to find, to protect it by something of the someone. So when you understand the Buddha, and then you're no longer seeking, protected by someone, and you are protecting yourself. Because you are setting free your mind from misconceptions. So you are not seeking outside the Buddha. So that's why Buddha says, Mahayana traditions. When we take refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, there's a Buddha, Dharma, and Sanghas. There's one Buddha, the outside, one Buddha's within. So outside the Buddha means Shakyamuni, who was born in India, and by following his teachings, you can say he is the Buddha. And then what he introduced you, and he also introduced you the Buddha. So Buddha that is possible in you. So you are trying to, how's that? Your kind of first, your faith is in outside of the Buddha, Buddhas who are different from you, right? So this is the person who has accumulates the 3 eons merit, and this is the Buddha who has perfect his wisdom. He understands, and then by following his teachings, now you understand. Oh, there's one Buddha in me. So now you're worshiping, or kind of, you are more faithful towards the Buddha in you. So, and more you have faithful in Buddha in you, and therefore you feel you appreciate the teaching of the Shakyamuni, so one who was born in India. So we are not really relying on a person. So we are not, culture, the emotionals is always seeking for person or the things that can help you, benefit you, or guide you, protect you, right? So that is very much like emotional, it's culture of the emotionals. Now you have to go beyond that a little bit, So you see the prayer from the solitary and the realizers, they, before they, when they pass away, they always, just before the passing away, they dedicate or they pray to be born where there is no Buddha and there's no bhikshus. So may I be born in that, place where no Buddha Dharma, no Buddha, no follower of Buddhas. So I will gain my knowledge, in there. So where you're born in that place. And then that reveals all the 12 independent originations and understand the ignorance. And then, overcome or eliminate that ignorance and attain the arhat. And with that, the place where people who have never heard the Buddha Dhammas, I can benefit them. I can plant the seed of the liberation in them. So this so this means it's not historical, relying on the historical Buddha. Their faith in the Buddha is inner Buddha. I just hope you understand. So now so I think this the possible of that kind of genuine and perfect kind of what we call faith or the fascinations, the quality of the Buddhas is through understanding the ultimate truth. So without realizing the ultimate truths, so you may not be able to understand what actual Buddha is. So if there is no such actual Buddha, but you still, in your mind, your emotions, and kind of, leaning towards, oh, there's Buddha, there's Buddha, which means either you're pointing at the statue or the historic Buddha. Right? So, and that's still in that kind of level or that state. So you're still within the cultural emotions. You're not free from the cultural emotions. So this means, the person who is always standing in the foundation of the house never try to build a house and say, this is my place, I'm going to build a house. So every day comes morning to that place. So I think this also kind of, like in the refuge formulas. So I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha until enlightened. Right? So which means one who is become the Buddha is, he stops seeking refuge. He stops seeking refuge, which means, the refuge, the concept of refuge is not in the Buddha. So, because he is protected, he is no longer need protectors. So the way he sees in the protections, in the protection within him and protected by him, he himself protected, he is protected. So there is no protectors that needed. So anyway, where am I? So what balance? Yeah, any questions? I think this is really kind of very big kind of topic, because so from the beginning there's many. I think there's the understanding of the true truths. So understanding of the true truths, the conventional truth means, so the reality that is accepted or possessed by the conventional knowledge, it's like in conventional knowledge choose, right? This is the reality. Is the worded a vote? This is real. So who wrote that? Is the conventional, ordinary knowledge. So which means that real is only accepted. It exists only because accepted by the ordinary knowledge. So this real is no longer real beyond the ordinary knowledge. Right? That is the conventional reality. The ultimate reality means Työndam Denpa means, and the Työndam is referring to the ultimate, is referring to the perceptions, the wisdom, a noble wisdom, saying this truth is only revealed by this noble wisdom. So this truth is never accepted in the conventional knowledge. So whatever the conventional knowledge accepted to be real is no longer found to be real in noble wisdom. Right? So then the second step, like I said, and how do you really, again, dividing this conventional reality? So how do you really, from the perspective of the sentient beings or the ordinary sentient beings and the perceptions of the Arya beings. So how do you really describe the true truths from their two different perspectives? And then says, conventional realities are accepted or voted to be real by ordinary sentient beings. And the ultimate is revealed and, revealed by the Arya beings. So then the question is, does that mean the noble beings, the Arya beings, do not have any, understanding of the conventional realities? Then says, conventional reality still appears perceived by the noble being. And then, dividing the noble beings. So noble beings who are not free from the afflictive emotions, right? Noble beings who are free from afflictive emotions, two set of the noble beings. So the noble beings are not free from afflictive emotions. For them, it is the real. So conventional realities, because from their realizations is noble being, but from their habituations in the mind, and that's still, this person become half and half ordinary, half extraordinary. So from the wisdom side, and there are noble beings, from the propensity of the mind, and they still have the stain of that, So they see the conventional reality has some kind of intrinsic quality, but their realization says no intrinsic quality at all, right? So convincingly, but still from the propensity of the mind, that keeps kind of indicating, there's some intrinsic qualities. So then, noble beings who are free from afflictive emotions, so they don't have any afflictive emotions of the habit of afflictive emotions, the habit and the seed of the afflictive emotions. So for them, it's just unreal. It just relatively exists. It's just illusion-like exists. It's just dream-like existence. They do not possess any intrinsic qualities for the noble being who are free from afflictive emotions. Then again, it moves further for the enlightened beings. So enlightened beings is that relatively existing. So there is no such existing at all. It's a relatively, possessed, relatively possessed to be existing. Relatively existing is not there. And who possess it to be existence? Ordinary knowledge. So this is how Buddha says. From the ordinary knowledge, there's something exists. The Isis exist. Isis exist, and the relative with relation to the West, right? So, and it exists means, and where, so they are ready to pinpoint. There is there. So the Buddha do not see is it pointable. So it cannot be pinpointed any place or any locations. So the Buddha, understands this can be relatively exists for ordinary perceptions. So this is how Buddha, so I think that's which means implicitly understand means I do not see that, but it can be real if I have this type of mind.
Doesn't Mahamudra exists within the Gelugpa lineage, right? Am I mistaken or not? Mahamudra.
Yeah.
How would you describe Mahamudra?
I think the Chagyachim, and in the Kagyu traditions, they talk about Mahamudra as the Chagyachim. So, and then, in the Nyingma traditions, they use the term Dzogwa. And Gelug traditions, they use the term, it's just the language, Dewa symbols, great blessings. So now the question is, if all, pointing at one thing, one point, so how do they really come up with new terminologies? And then it says, even in the sutras, the Buddha has used many different terms. So 4 seals of the Buddhist doctrines, Buddha used the seals, the chagyas. So these terms, they kind of, use that in the house. The kind of, this the lineage of the gurus, they constantly using these terms. So the seals means now it's kind of, chagyas, this something unbreakable truth or indestructible truth is the seals. So no one can change that. So then so that, Mahamudra, as again, Mahamudra can be, understand from Sutrayana's point of views or Tantrayana point of views. So from the Tantrayana point of views is the sometimes we use like pneumescence. Pneumescence, very innate mind, by activating the innate mind and revealing this ultimate truth is the great way, Mahamudra. Right? So which means, which one should you follow? You are referring to the object that is revealed by this innate mind, or you are referring to the innate mind itself being able to reveal this ultimate truth? So then this Tantrayanas, the tradition is saying, as both, is more referring to the subject side, not the emptiness. The uniqueness is that innate mind revealing emptiness is the Mahamudra. And then the Gelug tradition has said that yes, and there says this is the clear light. The clear light means a very, profound and a very subtle consciousness, the raw consciousness or the subtle consciousness by having revealing this ultimate truth. They want to call this Devachana, the great blessings. So this all coming to the same point, but they have, because of the different traditions, the different way of the introducing the ultimate realizations. Otherwise, if they are very different and one has to be, expelled from the Buddhists. So someone Buddha hasn't taught and they find something. So which means they have to, these are not really following the Buddha. If the Buddha has taught, and Buddha has taught in Prajnaparamita or in worshipping heart sutras, all Tantrayana teachings. So all the traditions, the following that teaching, the Tantrayana teaching of the Buddha, Sutrayana teaching of the Buddha. So the taste is the same taste, and because the lineage, and different terms, different way of introducing, that ultimate state.
Well, there's a reason why I'm asking this. And this is a point of great confusion for me. I frankly don't know what to believe.
Please believe me.
Let me talk about a couple aspects here.
Yeah.
For one, I believe I both heard and read somewhere, and I don't know if I heard what I heard and read is correct. When I heard from, I believe, a teacher, I think I may be mistaken. The other, I read that somehow, I don't know if it was related to the cities, that they were somewhat different. There was some distinction between that in the Tantra and that in the Sutra path. And it sounded like both how things were unfolded, not enfolded, unfolded, were different, and that somehow there were some distinctions. When I heard that, I was kind of shocked. I was kind of surprised, and I said to myself, okay, I have to put this in a little compartment in my mind, saying, I really don't know for sure whether the meaning of enlightenment in some way is distinctive between Sutra and Tantric paths. That was one thing I'm trying to remember. The other aspect seemed to me very different. The yanas are different. Certainly, the word yana itself means there's distinctions in the vehicle, the nature of the vehicle, how that vehicle works, and how they count the yanas may be slightly different in Nyingma and Galupa. I think the number of yanas might be slightly different. But what I do know is that it's not quite what it sounds like on the face. That in the Nyingma tradition, there is an introduction. There's an introduction into the nature of mind. And it's deceptive in that you can conclude, the teacher is introducing the student. Sometimes it sounds like some teachers are talking that way. The teacher is introducing the student. But as I learned it, the mind of the student has to become inseparable from the mind of the teacher. So if the ground isn't ready in the mind of the student, if it's not properly cultivated, probably the student can't be introduced. And I also have this sense there's little tastes and there's much bigger taste of the nature of mind. You can get a very tiny taste, or you can get a more profound taste, depending on your own, you could say, cultivation. And so, when we're studying this book, it sounds like, to me, this is very much the sutra path, not the tantric path, and that they don't really talk about it. They don't even use the word introduction. That's not even part of the language. It's more spoken of in terms of non-duality or no object and no subject. And that seems to happen by gradually stripping away the misconceptions until the whole conceptual framework is completely collapsed, at least ultimately. There's no ultimately, when one achieves the state of the Buddha, it seems maybe there's no conceptual framework whatsoever. Conceptual framework is only in the realm of the relative. Yet it sounds to me like in Mahamudra and Dzogchen, I mean, also the conceptual framework collapses. In this way, it's the same. But it seems it happens in a much quicker way, and seemingly and superficially, the teacher directly introduces the student. The Zen has its own approach, even at that further different approach. So I can't help having had some taste. Maybe I've had a little bit of taste, I should say. I don't want to overdo it.
Yeah.
that there is a difference in approach. There's a difference in language. There's a difference in how, because of the approach and maybe the preparation, in how the non-conceptual state is introduced.
Yeah.
The method is different. And the ground has been even, you could say, in one case, I don't know, you can say in all cases the ground has to be generally properly prepared, except in the case of a Mahasiddha, it could be introduced very instantly. But it sounds like to me there are differences, and therefore I have to acknowledge, because that's how it seems to me.
When you say it sounds like a difference, then which means you are just, looking at the sound. So you sound different, he sound different. So are we talking about, different point because you have different sound? Right?
There's no, it's not.
When the bird says there's water, there's a sound. When the dog says there's water, they make sound. So it's not different.
No, I don't think it's. You're playing with the words here, I think, because
so you are confused in the word. So
yeah, well, I have to use words. I have no choice. Just like you have to use words, I have to use words. I can't escape that.
So I'm just saying that,
I
For
mean,
me,
if there
always
isn't a
I always
difference
think that in
in
my
description and method,
mind,
why even talk of yanas?
Dzogchen, Gaigyu, Nyingma, Saiga. I always feel that everyone, whatever they use, the different terms, the language, vocabularies, the methods, and how they, when they speak of the emptiness with eye opens or closed opens, or with moving hands, whatever it is, they have to talk. They have to point to what Buddha has taught. So I always believe that. So you may use the different, physical gestures, different way of, because of your cultures, your emotions, your family backgrounds. You may have a different approach. But all have to come to the same point. Otherwise, if the Gelu is, Nyingma Kagyu are really, grasping on the essence of the Buddha's teaching, and Buddha's Gelu is a little bit, directed and slight difference. So I'm ready to give up the Gelu, because everyone has to, understand the Buddha, what Buddha has taught, not what you taught, what you emotionally imagine. So, imagination, the methods, the informations. The centuries we are following this kind of religions, the cultures. We keep creating those things. No one really kind of, perfectly benefited from them. So,
well, then what do you have to? This is a place I gotta hang my hat.
Yeah. So I always believe, whatever the Gelug Lama says or Nyingma Lama says. This is why we said four reliance. Four reliance means first you rely on the teachers. And the way you rely on the teachers, by relying on his speech, what he's trying to explain. Teacher and teaching is more to the teaching, not the teachers. And within the teachings, the word and the meanings, more rely on the meaning, not the words. And within the meaning, more there's intellectual and experience, more rely on the experience, not the intellectuals. And then once you understand, once you gain the knowledge, and do not rely on your, the intellectual or the conceptually understanding, rather in direct perceptions. So this is what Buddha says. So if you just start with the first teacher and the teaching, the teacher and the teaching, or there's many teachers, he said this, and then right now the Alexander's in Germany, he translated Shantideva's text in Arabic. So then maybe there one Arabic man who is speaking Arabic language about Shantideva's teaching. So that he used every different words, vocabularies, right? But he has to, make to the point what, Shantideva's way of generating, exchanging self to the others. If there is the meaning, there is the actual practice of the exchange of self to the others. We don't care about what language he uses.
Well, okay. This is the way I have to ask a pointed question here. Very pointed question. This is the only way I can ask it. Because I'm trying to pin you down here.
Can you see the Jewish question? Yeah.
Do you think yana, the word yana, is a properly descriptive term? And there are different yanas. And how do you see the meaning of jhana and classifications of jhanas?
The jhana in the Hindi and the Sanskrit term, the jhana is the vehicles, carriers. So what carry you, right? So it's like what vehicle that you use get to the enlightened, the destinations. So that you are using a truck or U-Haul or Toyota, Mercedes, BMW, whatever you use. So the main thing is I have to get to the enlightenment. So that the jhana is the one that you goes in or one that thing carry you in order to get to the enlightenment. So then that method, so things that you're using that to get to the enlightenment, or there is Tantrayana, or there is Sutrayana, or within the Tantrayana and the yana that you are given by, provided by, introduced by, in this particular lineage or that particular lineage, right? But yana means to carry you to the enlightenment. So that is the yana. Yahan. Right now, the India sent the rocket to the moon, the Chandrayaan 3, right? As a carrier.
So do you think the use of, for example, the inner tantras and the outer tantras is a meaningful word as a descriptive term? And if so, how would you describe the uses of those terms?
So as I said, the yana is the carriers. What carrier you use for you to get to the enlightenment. So the carrier can be method, introductions, instructions, right? And then kind of like methods. So you got that from your one particular lineage, or you got it from many lineages, right? Or you just find by yourself by understanding of the Buddha's teachings. The yana is the path. So yana is the path that you are get on, and it will take you to that enlightenment.
How do I know? I mean, or any of us. Yeah. How do any of us know which yana?
Now there's a person who is always sitting in the bus stations, never get into the bus. So there's which bus should I take? So is it comfortable, or is there air conditions? Is the restroom or not? So never get into the bus. So you have to get into the bus. Then you see, oh, this bus is very comfortable. Seats comfortable, but air conditioning is not. But this the air conditioning seat is good, but there's no restroom. For 5 hours, journey may be difficult. Then you say, oh, next time I take this bus. So your kind of desire is to get to the destinations. But use any kind of bus, whatever you're comfortable.
Maybe I'm comfortable on different kinds.
Comfortable in the bench.
I mean, maybe I'm not confined to a single
bench in the bus stations.
kind of bus. I mean, I don't know that I would describe myself as still waiting for the bus. I don't think so. But if you ask me what bus am I on, I would say I'm not sure which bus I'm on. Maybe I'm on more than one bus simultaneously, or maybe I use one bus to support another bus, or I take one bus part way.
Yeah.
And I can't even tell you.
Yeah, if you support it, I support this bus, I don't support this bus. bus say, I don't care. I'm bus. so it's for you. It's not for the bus, right? So bus never need your support. It just metal. So I think important things, yeah, and the within the Tibetan traditions. So from the beginning, I never liked those kind of talking about Gelug is the best, it's the pure lineages. I always that reserve. I don't like that because the this lineage is good, this lineage is not good. So which means you have to taste one to be able to choose one. So without any, having a taste of it, and from the distance, I like this food, don't like Chinese food, or this is so you taste and you will find your own, own, favorable dish. So just discriminating.
I like lots of dishes.
Yeah, I never really like this discriminating.
I'm not confined to Chinese or Mideastern or American.
So you can. I think that in the politicians, in the panel discussions, no one really fight for which food is good, because this is very absurd, right? So, Chinese food is good, or Arabic food is good, or the Japanese food is good, because they don't think there's no meaning. Because if today I eat Chinese, or tomorrow I taste, Muslim foods, and then after that maybe I'm, vegetarians or non-vegetarians. So the Dharma is like that. Dharma, you cannot. There's no benefit from discriminating on Dharma. Dharma is just to eat, just to practice, just to experience. So Dharma never need your support. You need Dharma support. So I think this is too much those emotional play and like culturally influence, right? Like new products. There's I support this product, and then there are people who care for the products. There's a corporation, the businessman, right? They need the support. So no Arya Devas, no Shanti Devas, no Shakyamuni Buddha says, please vote for me, support me.
Am I being argumentative? Am I being argumentative? Methinks I'm being argumentative.
Yeah, that opens many things. That's good too.
Julie has a question.
Julie's question is what?
How does Buddha see green Tara?
How do? Let me call him. How do you see green Tara? The green Tara is like, this is like, for example, green, general green. So you say, how do you see green? I like green in my windows. I like green in my tables. Then green says, it's not talking about the general one green. So green Tara is just the general concept of the one of the deities that represent the wind activities of the Buddha. And from there, this Dawa Dharmas in a long time, this many centuries ago, one who has attained enlightenment, and she is also, her enlightenment, is also the green Taras. So, and then after someone, if you attained, you follow the Tara, you become the green Tara. You're also green Tara. Your table, green table, your green bench, your green ceiling are all green. Right? General green is not necessarily green table, not green ceiling. So green Tara is just the general idea. There is the one who has manifested from the activities of the Buddha. So then there is a today's green Tara, yesterday green Tara. There is a 200 years old green Tara, many Taras. So green Tara is not like a Tenzi Shera or it's one particular. So green Tara is not a Larry mallet. So green Tara is our Logita Shera, Manju Shera is general. So the Buddha Shakyamuni, so when become the Buddha, so he is also capable of manifest in the green Tara. He is also capable of manifest our Logita Shera, Manju Shera, because he has the same quality. He has perfected his wind qualities, perfected his wisdom, perfected his compassion. So he can manifest our Logita. He can manifest green Tara and Jushin. I think we have this problem, and even most of the Buddhists they always think, oh, our Logita means almost like Tenzi Shera, their merit. Like that's the real person. Green Tara is not just a green. What kind of green? Oh, green table, green mop, green something. So, and sometime in the praising to the Buddha, this is, there's a one praise to Green Tara. This is the whole Buddhas. There's one of the visualizations, like Buddha's forehead, and then each, the essence powers, and every, joint of the bodies, they imagine, visualize the green Tara, all over the Buddha, because the perfect wind energies is, what I call the possess in the whole body of the Buddha. So the green Tara represents the wind energy. So our Logita represent the compassion. Manjushri represents the wisdom. And what the Vajrapani represent the power. In Hindu, the powers are represented by the Krishna. So Krishna in the Tibetan translation we call Chapo. Chapo means wrathful, powerful. Is to represent the power of the Bhagavan. Just the concept is just a concept. Green Tara has no address. So if you want to send a letter to Green Tara, there is no 1317 Park Avenue. This I kind of sometimes I would just when I talk to my senior monk, and when they start talking about how unique, what kind of Gelug traditions, there's some immediately my reactions. I try to challenge that. So why? Why is the uniqueness? So what are you trying to prove? A Gelug is more kind of more more unique than the other traditions. How can you prove? So if you are trying to prove So some exaggerate this, in Tibet, just after Lama Tsongkaphas, after Lama Tsongkapha, and people, find access to realization emptiness. So which is very much deprecating in Guru Rinpoche, Chandrakirti, which means those who are in Tibet before the Lama Tsongkapha, they have not really attained enlightenment. Because the emptiness is only introduced by Tsongkapha. That's very, very, yes, you are not really praising Guru, it's deprecating, the Buddha's teaching.
Isn't it almost putting an intrinsic quality into something?
So sometimes, people, there are sometimes the Sajapinda are saying that, the foolish, so there's praised by the foolish, praised by the foolish, how's that? Having praised by the foolish, what I'm trying to say, one knowledgeable criticism is better than foolish who have praised. So knowledgeable criticism is better than the foolish man praised. The foolish man is always, there's that kind of, they fall in an extreme. So it's better the knowledgeable who criticize. So it has base, and it has a knowledge base. So even Shantideva says, I don't see any, sentient being in Buddha. I don't see one is supreme and one is inferior. So then you say, how can you say that? A sentient being in the Buddha. Buddha is the enlightened being. Because you say, for me, one who is, through journey of the enlightenment and the benefit, the benefit from, sentient being in the Buddha is equal to me. So I have respect and, to equal the sentient being in Buddha. So I have no sense of superior in the Buddha. I don't have inferior in sentient beings. Yes. So, dividings and trying to, that one is right and one is wrong. Emotionally doing that is itself is a non-virtuous action. So this is called abandoning the Dharma. This action is abandoning Dharma. So the result from abandoning Dharma is to be born in a place where there is no Dharma at all. In the sutra also mentioned, someone who has, engaged in non-virtuous action for many years, and just by understanding this dependent originations, he can enlighten within his life. One who has killed so many people, like Angulimala, and one who is discriminating on Dharma and says he has no access because his discriminating on Dharma is the obstacles, the biggest obscuration to revealing the Dharma, to understand Dharma. So it's worse than killing so many people. Angulimala killed 999 people, right? But yeah. Yeah, so discrimination on the traditions, methods, gurus is It's very, 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 unfortunate. So we are seeking for liberation, it's freedom. So if you are under the emotions, and you cannot free your mind, and very extremely falling on one side, and how much you have faith, how much you try, how much you can put effort, because you cannot be free. So freedom means accept every reality is flexible with any every positivities, every knowledge. So no matter where it comes from, if there's no more knowledge, so that is the freedom. So I only take from this, I only buy the food from this restaurant. And so there's a one bird, so who only drinks the water when from the rain. So that birds often die from the thirst, it's because he chooses to drink the water only from the from rain. Even there is the pond, water is oh no, I'm I'm not going to drink that. Yeah, Mahayana means be flexible, open heart, far seeing. That's very important. So we are not politicians. So politicians are one party, so I stick with the one party. And when you think about Lama Tsongkapha himself, right, he received teaching from all kinds of traditions, Nyingma, Kagyu, Sanya. If Lama Tsongkapha is, following all traditions, why not you? What happened to you? So, this is the human nature. Yeah, humans always like bound with emotional. Yeah, Larry. In the sutra, we already, read that sutra, so the one line that's saying, the emptiness, because you are trying to understand emptiness, and then you superimpose the emptiness has to be, intrinsically existence, right? So one side, one mind, your main desire is to understand emptiness, and you want to believe the emptiness is different from conventional reality, and emptiness is truly existence. So Buddha says, this is the person, the one who, take the medicines and haven't really digested. So medicines, instead of to heal your kind of illness, it will cause more fevers and other problems. Yes, Larry. Any questions?
I never know if I'm mixing what is it, the three pots or something like that, the one with the hole in it, and the one that's full, and the ones that's contaminated. I don't know how contaminated my pot is.
Sometimes it's sometimes it's okay because if you're in extreme in emotions, but you're choosing one particular and you follow the one particular, there's no problem with that. And you're extremely emotional, and then that's a problem. So you say by choosing that you are ready to abandon others. You're saying you're ready to you think it's it is right to say others is invalid. So remember my mother's my mother is two malas. So one mala she recited Mimitsima, and another mala is Benzaguru or Manipemi. So Mimitsima mala is a different, So when you finish reciting Mimitsima, and she will always do this, to touch the eye. And I asked, why do you do that? Oh, it's because the how's that? The sound of the Migmet Zebe. Here, Migmet is non-referential, right? The spelling is, the sound is almost same as I. She thought, oh, this is good for my eye. So I never correct her because this is benefiting. This, although it's kind of misconceptions, but its benefits are. There is no any, she is not involved in any negative actions. So she thought is the victima is good for eye. So she just did that, So that's okay, right? That's okay. In the Kadamba's followers, the Geshe Chengawa, actually Geshe Potowa is. So one who is very strictly follow Damdama. He never goes to other teachers. And the Chekawas and follows many teachers. So, and then they discuss, ask the Buddha, why Chekawas follows all kind of teachers? He just go and to receive teaching. Sometimes even he goes to his students' teaching. Listen, someone asked the Buddha, why the Geshe Cheka was doing this? Is it proper or is it the proper way of doing? And then Geshe Buddha says, if you satisfied from one ball of the waters, your satisfactions, you can satisfy with this particular, water, and you cannot drink enough, and you are drinking another's. So it's depending on how satisfied you are, how fast you can, cultivate the knowledge. If you cultivate knowledge enough from one person, and that should be paid. So if you are not being able to cultivate knowledge fully from one person, you go with the other people's. So like, there's one river, then the elephant comes, the pig comes, the mice comes, all drink. So, the mice drink very little than the pig and the elephant. But satisfaction is important. So even the small sips of waters, they go away. So elephant has to wait for a longer time. So the Mayana is elephant, you know. We should drink more. Okay. Chanju semjo rinpoche, maje pana, jeju, jebanya, mebanya, konyo, konyo, ewa rinpoche, maje pana, jebanya, mebanya, konyo, pebanya. Kama shenjen tamje, dedan denji, ngendro tamje, chato, tong, chanju semjo, kama suja, deda guje, nolam dhuzi, karera rukube, shianzu, kalam, sheresi, tinzin jala,
May the precious golden mind I upon the rise and grow. May the home have not declined but increase forevermore. May the precious mind realizing emptiness now upon the rise and grow. May the home have not declined but increase forevermore. To the Lord is merit, may our Father and Mother century in heaven and all last. And may all the Lord realms be empty forever. Wherever there are Bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished. In the circular surrounded by snow mountains, the source of unlimited happiness, the powerful century of the dregs of remain in this world and this and zero ends.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Julila.